let us go to Janet. And hello, Janet. There we go.
I think you can hear Janet now. Okay.
There we go.
I had myself muted. No wonder you couldn't hear me. So I have a few things to discuss today. First of all, I was very gratified to learn that the report to the United Nations that our human rights grassroots organization named ITHICA submitted last year. This is for the Universal Periodic Review of the Human Rights Record of the U.S. Our report got a mention and a footnote in the UN compiled report. Basically, we discussed two issues in the ITHICA report. One is the continued crisis going on with guardianship and the attacks on our elders and disabled through the state-authorized guardianship program. And the other issue, which was entangled and related with the first one, is attacks on human rights defenders. And mentioned in the report was the fact that lawyers who are attempting to address these abuses are being suspended from the practice of law. So this is the issue that the UN mentioned in their report, was the attacks on human rights defenders and the fact that attorneys are, there's a chilling effect going on in the legal system because attorneys are being suspended from the practice of law when they try to address these abuses. And we have discussed many of these situations before on your show. I do want to say something about why I chose to create ITHICA, which I did create back in 2009, and why I am engaging the UN on these issues. Clearly, the United Nations has no dominion over the domestic policies of the United States. This is more almost like a meeting of the minds, and it is also a marvelous media opportunity. So what happens is that a number of nations, many nations involved in the United Nations, get together and they get to make comments on what they think is going on in the United States with their human rights record that is off kilter, as do civil society. So there's a webcast where you can hear what Russia has to say, what Kenya has to say, what the Netherlands has to say, basically what their concerns are. And once again, this is not about getting the UN to step in and do anything. This is an opportunity for people to get together and look at the issue and discuss it, hopefully openly and honestly. Now, pursuant to the open and honest end of the issue, I'm not going to go into this at great length right now because there is an article pending publication, but as it turned out, the U.S. Has lied massively in their response to allegations made against them by other countries in civil society. So there is an article entitled Just Say Anything that shall be published soon, I believe, that goes into the level of disinformation and propaganda that the United States is engaged in now as it tries to put some spit shine on its tarnished human rights record.
I mean, if I can interject for a second. The way I look at it, as far as getting this out there, is that whenever you have oppression inside a system, you have to get to the outside to shine a light inside. And so
I think so too.
And you have shown that you have went internally in channels to deal with these things, going to the courts and whatnot, to in your case the guardian violations and whatnot. And it has been a closed-loop, cover-up, good old boy system. So when that fails, you have to go outside and kind of yell out the window and hope that that will at least get it noticed.
I do agree with that, too. And I look at it like, let's say you got a house and the father in the house is beating the crap out of everyone in the house, okay? And everyone's sort of like frightened and they don't know what to do. So you go outside and you start yelling to your neighbors, look what daddy's doing to me, okay? In a sense, it is somewhat like that because since we are being denied due process and we're being denied redress domestically, one of the best ways I think of getting attention to this, besides continuing to discuss it and write about it, is also to make sure that other countries are aware of, that the international community is aware of the kinds of abuses going on. So I do agree with you on that. Incidentally, we had discussed on your show previously my plans to go to Geneva in April for this event, and I was unable to go because I ended up injured. However, I have renewed my plans, and for those who are listening, who are involved in concerns and dealing with the guardianship abuse issue, I am now again collecting reports having to do with Article 1 of the Convention Against Torture. Article 1 clearly delineates what is torture, and as anyone who has had a loved one under guardianship will see, some of the verbiage in Article 1 directly relates to what's happening to our loved ones under guardianship. Now, the U.S. generally doesn't sign human rights treaties, which means that there's not much of anything that the UN can do about most of these abuses. However, interestingly enough, the U.S. has signed the Convention Against Torture, although we saw all the good it did people at Guantanamo Bay, okay? But because the U.S. has signed this convention, it does give us standing to go to the UN and file a formal complaint about the abuses that are going on to our loved ones under guardianship. So anyone can contact me through my website, janetphalen.com, if they have further questions about this. I think it's very important that we pull out the stops and do everything that we possibly can at this point in time, because we really have a crisis of abuse. Now, a couple other things I want to mention. We have been discussing on your show.
Well, actually, one second, if I can say.
Oh yeah.
The thing about this, this is the momentum behind it that, for my way of thinking, verifies what you're doing here. Is that you're going to go, you're going to talk to them. You got to be able to get a position to talk to them. Things happened that prevented you to talk to them in the life around you, and yet the report still got in there. So it still took your effort to make that chance, try. And even though you didn't make it, one might think it was, well, I was a failure. I tried. They won slightly, but it still got in there, and that should be an encouragement for everybody to try. When you set out to try, it doesn't mean you have to actually go through what you are going to do for it to follow through. And I think that's where you got the spiritual backup on this one. Somebody's got your back covered.
I sure hope so. I really do. Okay, so I want to say a little bit more now about the issue going on with Public Records Act requests. We've been talking about this recently on your show, how I have been making Public Records Act requests to the California Department of Justice, asking for some specific records relevant to numbers of complaints about specific guardians. And the California Department of Justice has taken an extreme position here and has decided to ignore my Public Records Act requests, which have been tendered appropriately, have been tendered politely, and they simply are not going to respond. Now, my understanding of why they don't want to respond is that I have every legal right to these records, and it's going to make the DOJ look very, very bad. Now, having to do with persistence, towards the end of last week, I located someone within the California AG's office who was involved in civil rights, a deputy attorney general named Angela Sierra. And I reached out to her and I explained the problem, that they won't even, the DOJ won't even respond, won't even admit, they will verbally admit receiving the Records Act request, but they won't do what they have to do, which is to either issue the records or issue a denial. So Angela Sierra, who is with the Civil Rights Division, and certainly public records requests, transparency is First Amendment issues, it's a civil rights issue. So she has promised me that she is going to try to see what's going on there and see if we can get this moved forward. So thank you, Angela. I hope you're having a nice weekend, and I really appreciate the help. Pursuant to these continued problems with public records, I recently had filed some requests with the United States Department of Justice having to do with information on how many police officers have been federally prosecuted for police abuse, and also issues about convictions on hate crimes. And the United States Department of Justice decided to ignore the requests. This is getting very bad. Now, recently, the Wall Street Journal carried an article on the Obama administration, calling it the least transparent administration we've ever had. And the Wall Street Journal discussed a number of problems going on with FOIA requests, including ignoring them, redacting the information, refusing to comply within the proper time frame. And so my problems here are actually more indicative of a larger issue. And because we do see this going on now massively. So in terms of my recent requests to the DOJ, I got mad and I called them up and I started talking about what they were doing as retaliatory, as blacklisting. You know, I wanted to speak to the head of the press office and so forth. And at that point, within about 15 minutes, they squeezed out a response to my request, which was in a sense non-responsive. They would not give me the documents I requested, which is actually requesting the case numbers. See, this is the problem. The DOJ has said, for example, and this is something discussed in a recent article of mine, that there are hundreds and hundreds of federal prosecutions for police abuse in the last 5 years. As a matter of fact, there were 5. So one of my requests was wanting to see the case names and numbers of all these hundreds of, as it turned out, non-existent federal prosecutions for police abuse. And as they could not give me hundreds of names and numbers, they just ignored me. So, you know, there are further concerns going on with other statements being made by the DOJ about prosecutions which appear to be similarly spurious. So when I did get an answer from the press officer and he did not give me the case names and numbers, he suggested that I file a FOIA, Freedom of Information request, which may take years. Under law, it has to be responded to within 20 days. But we are seeing that when the government doesn't want to give us the records, they just won't. So this is pretty much it for today. I understand you're having Carrie Andrew Crittenden on to discuss his battles with the legal system, and I'm very excited that you're having him on. I do understand he's going into court tomorrow. He is facing charges for probation violations, which, according to my review of the situation, are completely bogus. So I'm very pleased you're going to have him on to discuss this.
Well, it goes along with my ongoing thing. If people are going to be out there sticking their neck out and they're going to be making a stand against the man, we need to support them. And, you know, this is what I can do. Have him on the show, make a file of the show. He can share the file. He can go out on Facebook and all this information can get out there. So this is, if somebody's going to make a commitment to do that, then, you know, and it crosses paths with me, then, you know, I can do what I can to at least give them some airtime, plus the package, more importantly, the way the internet works, that package which can be sent out and share the information.
I'm very pleased you're doing that, and I look forward to hearing the show. So that's it for today, and see you next week.
All righty. Thank you, Janet. You know, Janet writes for New Eastern Outlook, which you can see her articles. What I've done is I just do a search for Janet Phalen Neo, and that'll take me a link right to her page, and you can see all the dozens of articles that she has posted up there. So that's one way, and then there's janetphelan.com, of course, is the focal center kind of vortex for her work. And so, once again, thank you, Janet.
Thank you, James. See you next week. Bye.
All righty. Here we go. Janet Phalen.